Welcome back to the Python series. So let's start with a small program to add two numbers. So let's clear this. To add two numbers, we just have to place a plus operator in between them inside the print function. Let's print the type 2. So let's run this. We got 15, that is 5 plus 10, 15, and the class is integer. So let's take the input from the user and then add the two numbers. Let's store the value of a plus b in another variable c. Now let's print c. So let's run this. It's asking for the number. We got 510 instead of 15, and it also shows that it's a string. Though we gave integer, but it's showing that it's string. Let's see what are strings. Strings are simply sequence of characters. String data should be stored inside single quotes or double quotes if it's single line, and in triple quotes if the data contains multiple lines. So as we all know, everything is an object in Python. For example, variable with integer data is an object of integer, variable with string data is an object of string. And now the objects are classified into two types. They are mutable objects and then immutable objects. What are mutable objects? Objects which can be modified after they are created are called as mutable objects. The objects of list, dictionary and set data types are mutable. So now let's see what are immutable objects. Objects which cannot be modified after they are created are called as immutable objects. And the objects of integer, float, complex, string and tuple data types are immutable. Let's verify whether the strings are mutable or immutable. Let's create two variables with same name but different data. Here we have created two variables with same name but different data. So let's run this. See, both works. And now how can we verify whether the strings are mutable or immutable? As we discussed earlier, there is a built-in function called id which returns the address where the data is stored. So let's place the id function inside the print function. So let's run this. Here we can see that the both IDs are different, so that the strings are immutable. If the strings are mutable, then both the data should have the same ID. That is, the welcome to Python string should be replaced or modified by hello world, so that the ID should be same. Here it's not the case, so that the strings are immutable. String data types have special features like indexing and slicing. Let's start with the first one. What is indexing? Referring to an element by using its position, or getting an element by using its position. And now, what is index? Indexing nothing but the position. Let's see an example. Welcome to Python. In the above example, welcome to Python, the index values or position values of W, E, L, C are 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. These are called as position of the elements or index of elements. And now indexing in a string is called string indexing. In Python, indexing starts from 0, so that W is at 0th position, E is at first, L is at second and so on. Even the blank spaces, comma and then full stop also has index values. And now, how can we access the elements by using the index value? For this, we have a syntax, and the syntax is nothing but rules and regulations for writing a particular code. As we all know, here the variable is used to acquire the data. So the syntax is just press the variable name and then the square brackets, and inside the square brackets we can give the index value. Here let's take 0. This is also just returns the value, so let's place this inside another variable, c equals to, now let's print c. So as we discussed, it should return W. So let's run this. So yeah, it returned W. So let's see some more examples. Let's run this. Here it returned nothing because the index value 7 has an element blank space. And now what happens if we give an index value which is not in the range of length of string? So let's try this. Here I am giving 100, index value 100. So let's run this. It raised an error, and the name of the error is index error, string index out of range. And now what happens if we give a negative index value? So let's check this. Let's give -1. And now run this. We got n, which is the last element. So here in strings, on moving from left to right, the index value increases, and then moving from right to left, it decreases. That is, W has the index value 0, and if we decrease to negative values, then it starts from the last. That is, n has -1, O is -2, H is -3, T is -4 and so on. And now what is slicing? Getting a subpart is called slicing. This is also same as the string indexing. In string indexing we can access only one element, whereas in slicing we can access a substring or a part of string. And the syntax is like this, where start is the starting index value, stop is the ending index value, and the element at index is not included, and step is step value. Step value is nothing but the difference between indices of two successive elements. And there are some points to be noted. By default the step is set to 1, and by default start is set to 0. At the same time, by default stop is set to the end of string. So let's see some examples of string slicing. So let's start from starting 0 and then 5. Let's place the step as 1. So let's run this. So we got from 0 to 4. 5 is excluded and the step is 1. So let's run this. Here it worked, so that the step is set to 1 by default. So let's run this. Here we place the step as 2, so that the 0th element, 2nd element and then the 4th element has been printed. So let's see what happens if we leave them empty. So let's run this. Here we can see that the entire string is printed. When we give an index value in the stop section, then the element at particular index is not included. Whereas we left that empty, then the entire string is printed. And now how can we print the string in reverse order? So let's do this. When we print from the last to beginning, then the step is -1, so that start should be at -1. We don't know the end, and then the step should be -1. So let's run this. So here it printed in the reverse order. We can also compare two strings. So let's see how it works. Let's create another variable. I'm just copying this and just paste it. I'm just placing capital N in place of small n. To check this, we can use the if conditional statements or while loops. So let's make it simple. S equals to S1. This will return a boolean value. So it returns false. The interpreter just verifies the ASCII values in both the strings, so that if the ASCII value is different, then it throws false. If not, then it throws true. And now to find the ASCII values, we have a built-in function called ORD. Let's try this. And to get the element at particular ASCII value, we have another function chr. Let's try this. So let's run this. Here we got the ASCII value of A is 65, and then the element at ASCII value 66 is capital B. We can also find the length of the string. For this, we have a function len. So let's try this. Len of s. So let's run this. We got the length as 17. We can also concatenate two strings directly. Let's see. Let's concatenate hello and then word. Just place a plus and then word. So let's run this. Here we can see the concatenated one. As we discussed, different data types have different functions and then different operations. So let's see the functions and operations inside strings. To access the functions or operations, we have to use a dot operator. So S stores the data, so let's place S and then dot. To change from lower to uppercase letters, we have upper function. Here it gives us suggestions, so enter. Let's run this. Here we can see the total data is converted into uppercase letters. We can also find whether a substring is present in the main string or not, and can get the index value. So let's try this. S dot. For this we have find of. We have to play the substring. Let's see Python. Python, and then let's run this. Here we got 11. It will return the start and index value. We can also do the same thing by using another function called index. So let's try this. Index. Let's try the same Python. So let's run this. Here we got the same index, starting index. And now what is the difference between both of them? The major difference is that find will return -1 if the substring is not present in the main string, whereas the index will return an error. So let's see. As we discussed, we got -1 for find and then value error for index. So let's see some more examples and some more functions. Front of s dot center. Let's place 100 value and then special character as star. So run this. So here center is to align the given string in 100 bits length with fill character star. We can find a syntax for a particular function just by placing the cursor on the function name and then hold the control key. You will get this and then click on this. Here we can find the syntax and then what it returns. And now we also have a built-in function to list the functions for particular data type. The function name is help. So let's see. First thing we have to place str. So let's run this. So let's drag this up. Here are all our functions for string data type. Is decimal, is digit, is identifier, is lower, is numeric, and lot more. And now let's come back to the actual question where we stopped. Let's clear all this. Let's run this. Let's give the same numbers 5 and then 10. And now we know that in strings we have concatenation, so that here it concatenated. And now what is the reason behind this? The reason behind this is by default input takes the data as string, so that is the reason why we are getting concatenated string but not addition of two numbers. And now how to overcome this? To overcome this we have to follow typecasting. Typecasting is nothing but just ensuring or telling the interpreter the type of the data. Let's place int here. The last two. Int. And now let's run this. Let's enter the values 5, 10. So here we got 15 and the class is integer. So here is how typecasting is used, and this is the solution for the problem.